This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show. This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show.
YouTube, what is up? I'm your homeboy Josh, back at you, and today we're taking a look at the Musketeer RDA from Blitz. Same people that brought you the Hanya like a year or so ago? I never reviewed it, but it looked cool, and the Blitz looks really fucking cool too. Blitz is the company, dude. The Musketeer is the RDA. If you're gonna be reviewing products, do us all a favor and get it right, would you? These are kind of the basics. I'm sorry for any confusion he may have caused. Musketeer RDA comes in this white box with the RDA front and center. Yeah, you guessed it, reminds me a lot of the Aeronaut. A lot of the Aeronaut. I mean, it's got the tubes in the bottom, man. The moment you see tubes in the bottom, in my mind, I think Aeronaut. That's the Aeronaut right there. Oh God, enough with the fucking Aeronaut already, you fucking fanboy. It's got a lot more going on than that. It's got the most unique clamping system that I've ever come across. It's different than all the other clamping systems that I've seen come before it. And the way that this deck works, the way that this clamping system is so unique is instead of the clamps being pushed down on top of the coils, the clamps, by turning the screws, are lifted up, trapping the coil from underneath. Really unique, really different, and interesting that they decided to do it that way. You're squishing me, you bastard.
You're squishing me.
One reason behind it is this airflow that comes in from the side and hits the coil going underneath the clamps and hitting it over there. So if you push this coil down really good, then air is going to come in right underneath the coil and hit it from the side beautifully. But the under the clamp thing is really cool, I ain't gonna lie. That shit's really neat. And it's built for a purpose that way, and I like that. It was a very unique, interesting design. Cool. Reverse directional clamping or whatever, that's neat. What's the catch? Getting a coil in there is a little bit odd because there's no opening on the side. It's kind of like you have to cut your leads down a little bit, and then you push one lead all the way in, and then you can orientate the other lead and push it back out. So it's evenly spaced in between both posts. It's a little bit of finagling to get it in there, but once you do, it's very easy to close up the clamps and tighten everything down. The bottom airflow system on this device is also incredibly unique because it has those bottom airflow tubes, those airflow tubes like the Aeronaut did, but they do them a little bit differently. For better or worse, they do them a little bit differently. They're not interchangeable. You can't push them out, you can't exchange them, you can't change them up. What you can do, you get this little key. A key? A mystical, magical key that unlocks the doorway to the universe? The Catterverse? This shit's ridiculous. Which also doubles as the adjustment for the pin at the bottom. If you're a hybrid lover, you can use that to do whatever you want. To adjust the positive pin? Dude, learn to speak, please. And it's got this unique tool on the other end. You can push this on in here, into this cutaway, and you can turn the airflow however you want. You can turn it so it's facing down if you want, to the side, all around. You've got full mobility. For instance, if I want the air pointing straight up at the coil, I can do that. I can turn them inward, for example. So airflow is kind of like this now, pointed at the coil. You can kind of change the direction of how that tube is hitting the coil with the air. It's interesting. And I actually really like it because what I can do with that is, I like it pointing straight up at the coil, sure. You can also point it at the sides of the coil to get, that bit of, coil that you don't normally hit. You don't normally hit the sides of the coil with air, but you've got that bottom airflow, coming in through the tubes. So why not? Why not cover the whole coil in airflow, right? Because you can. And you can look at it from overhead and see how the air is angled. You can also push this up toward a light and check it out from underneath if you wanted to do that. So you can actually adjust the direction of the airflow while you're actually using this device if you happen to have this tool with you. Oh great, something else for him to lose. I'm telling you, my money is on him losing this before he loses the drip tip. I'm taking bets. But truth be told, if you lose this piece, you can just use a screwdriver. You can also do it with a screwdriver, I think. It's got a cutaway that would work for a screwdriver, but it's nice to have the tool, right? Right. All right, so now airflow is pointed at the sides of the coil. Definitely not as much flavor that way. A lot more clouds though. I actually really like pointing the air inward so that the air is actually sort of combining in the middle of the coil, and it's air from one tube hitting air from the other tube. It actually creates a lot of turbulence. There's that word again. Turbulence. I swear he's fucking obsessed. I'm a big fan of turbulence in the airflow. I think that it creates more flavor when you have air playing off of each other and air hitting into air on top of hitting the coil. It just creates more flavor in there. It's nice. It's really nice. There are some drawbacks with this system. It leaks. No doubt it will leak. The bigger your coil, the more cotton, the less chance you're gonna have of leaking. So you wanna stuff this thing really good with cotton, with a really big coil. We're talking 3.5 millimeter bit, 4 millimeter bit. I mean, it's got the space for it, so go nuts. There's nothing here to restrict the diameter of your coil pretty much. There's so much room here. And it's perfect for those single coil exotics. Not unlike the Tsuka Alien Mohawk that I threw on in here.
Floating down the stream, and I've been rolling my eyes at the universe.
Making the Tsuka Alien Mohawk is not a super difficult venture. The thing about it is that you're going to start by making a snake. 3 strands off of the spool of 26 gauge, and then I use 0.3 ribbon wire to make a snake coil over that. The thing about making the snake is that you have to be really, really careful when you make a snake. It's not like making a Clapton coil where if you screw up, you can back out and then go back and just continue on. Making a snake, if the ribbon wire gets kinked or gets wonky in any place, if it's not perfectly made, perfectly spaced, perfectly compacted together with the wraps of the snake, it's not going to work. Because what is this place? Just like you stretch out. Where am I? Is this where you lost your footage? Why am I here? Jesus! What happened to this thing? I mean, what did you do to this? My God! Once it's all built, I have no words. What did you do to this card, man? This is tragic. And that's going to create your Mohawk Tsuka. And vapes beautifully. It's flavorful, it's cloudy, really, really tasty. It's wrapped around a 3.5 millimeter internal diameter, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wraps. Ohms out at about 0.24 ohms, and I vape it at about 75 watts or so. It works especially well in this device because it's a big, big coil. Even on a 3.5 millimeter bit, it's gonna fit in here. And Mohawks themselves, they're big coils, they're beefy, they're wide. You know, they're not gonna fit in everything. One of the first ones that I ever made was on the first episode of Coil Wars, and I put it in the Goon, and that thing hardly fit in there. It was tight, really, really, really tight. When I made this one, I put it on a 3.5 millimeter diameter. I kind of held my breath hoping it was going to fit in here, and it did. And honestly, I could have wrapped it on a 4 millimeter bit and it probably still would have fit. And that's crazy because not only is it a Mohawk, which makes it really thick wire, but it's also a Tsuka, which makes it even thicker wire. Granted, I was only using 0.3 ribbon, but it's still tight. I drip straight through the drip tip, always do. Now that's just asking for trouble, isn't it? It's kind of asking for trouble because there's a very good possibility of it leaking. It really is with this bottom airflow, the way that it's designed. See, it's not like the Aeronaut. The Aeronaut was designed in such a way that the well was super, super deep, and you could turn it on its side like this and it would never leak. I wouldn't do that here. The deck is pretty shallow. The deck on this one is really, really shallow by comparison. Like underneath these tubes, there's almost no space at all. They sit almost right on the deck, the floor of the deck, like maybe a millimeter or 2 above them. So you're not gonna get those same sorts of leak-free benefits that you get from the Aeronaut, if you ask me. If your tubes are angled any way other than straight up and down, you can expect to experience some amount of leaking here. Again, it all comes down to the thickness of your coils and the thickness of your wicking on this one to prevent you against leaking. It doesn't have that same leak resistance that the Aeronaut does, but it's still a really fun device to play around with, I have to say. And the airflow options, you just go on for days. I mean, there's actually quite a bit of space between the outer top cap and the airflow tube intake, the air intake on those tubes in the deck. As you're turning that top airflow tube, you're cinching the airflow closed in those tubes, yes, but there's still space where air can sort of swoop in and get into the tube that's sort of being closed off. So even as you're closing it off, you can still have air access both the tubes. Just one tube is getting less airflow than the other. However, on the other side of that tube, the air is balanced out. So it's not like a wonky vape, you're just experiencing that restriction. You can close off the side airflow, just bottom airflow. Really tasty, thick flavor, thick vapor, great flavor there. You can open up just the side airflow too. If you wanted to, you could have side airflow here and bottom airflow here. Of course, this side airflow, when it's like this, it's like it's hitting the cotton mainly, which it shouldn't work, but it does. Like it doesn't create a bad vape that way. It's actually kind of nice. Brings out more flavors in the juice, different flavors in the juice. I kind of like it. But you can also use just this side airflow, for example, and turn it so that all the airflow you're getting is the airflow coming in underneath the clamps, and you don't even have the tubes getting any airflow. It's tight that way. Restrictive lung hit that way. It's nice. On down from there, we have the inner airflow barrel. The inner airflow barrel, it's interesting when you consider all the airflow options that are actually on this device, that you can control these airflow options, these 1, 2, 3, 4 different side airflow holes and the bottom 2 airflow openings for the tubes with just this one cutaway. That's it. That's all that controls them. Well, 2 cutaways, one on either side. It's meant for dual airflow, but not dual coils, just dual airflow. Dude, we get it. There's lots of airflow options, whatever. How many airflow options do you really need in an RDA? At what point does it just become overkill? It's got this really nice bit of knurling up top, and coupled with the single O-ring that's just like the perfect tolerance, it's so easy to turn from the top cap without having to take the top cap off and reposition it. I can't tell you how many RDAs I've seen recently that I've actually got to take the top cap off and reposition the thing in order to change the airflow setting. That shit's just frustrating. This is the perfect tolerances on this one. It does work very well turning it to your liking, except for the fucking drip tip, which falls out every chance it gets. The outer airflow sleeve is devoid of any logos, any branding, anything at all, other than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 air holes in total. 6 airflows controlled by this inner airflow sleeve and the deck, which you're going to be using to adjust the airflow as well. Very complicated airflow system on this device. What you can do with the inner sleeve and the outer sleeve is adjust these 1, 2, 3, 4 air holes. One set of side airflow holes, it's just that side and nothing else. And one set of airflow holes above this ginormous set of airflow holes. Well, I mean, the ones on the side by themselves without that big airflow hole are actually even smaller than the ones over the large airflow cavernous opening. So there's lots of airflow options here, which is really nice. Me, myself, I probably wouldn't close it more than about 1/3 of the way down on just that side airflow, because it's a smaller side airflow as well, but it works. Take a look at this drip tip. This drip tip is, simply put, the most comfortable ultem drip tip that I've ever come across. Dude, chill out. It's a drip tip. Enough said. It is perfectly formed, perfectly curved, wonderfully thick, and just dreamy putting your lips on it. It's dreamy. Is it? Dreamy? Wonderfully thick. Really? Feels fantastic. Thing about it that I'm not so crazy about with the drip tip is it's loose. It has a tendency to pop out. It's very, very, very loose. You're not going to grip this from the drip tip. Trying to set myself up so I can grip it, and show you. There, dude, watch where you drop that thing. You're gonna fucking kill somebody. And it's a shame because I'm probably gonna lose it. Tons of airflow options on this device. That's one thing that I love about it. I really like the deck too. I don't like positioning my coils in the deck so much, but I like the way the clamps work, how they come up to trap the coil and leave that airflow underneath the clamps open for those side airflow options. I like that a lot. I like how much space is in this deck. I could wrap this coil around a 4mm bit and it would still fit. It would be tight, but it would fit. There's plenty of room in here to build. There's plenty of room for any kind of coil you want to throw at it. Definitely more suited for the single coil exotic. You can build dual coils in here, kind of the same way that I showed you with the Govod. You can also, same way I did the Aeronaut as well in a much earlier video. It's a fun device, I gotta say. If there's anything that I'd really change on this one, I'd make it so that the drip tip was way more secure. That drip tip has a tendency to pop out really easily. It's really not a very secure connection on the drip tip. I want to be able to hold a mod by the drip tip and be perfectly fine. That's what I should see in a drip tip, honestly. It's just way too loose. That, and I wish the well was quite a bit deeper. That way we could really take advantage of these tubes and have a lot more space for wicking and a lot more of a well for juice to sit in. I also feel like the flavor could be tweaked just a little bit on this one. I feel like there's a lot of dead space in the chamber above the deck between the drip tip and where your coil is going to sit. I feel like we could reduce that chamber quite a bit and improve the flavor in the process. But all in all, a really fun device to play around with, the Musketeer from Blitz. Anyway, guys, I appreciate all the things you guys are doing, the likes, the comments, the subs, all that. You guys are awesome. 2 more ways that you can support the channel. I've got a list of affiliate links in the description, as well as a link to the Patreon account if you feel like making a contribution to the channel. Really appreciate you. Till next time, I'm your homeboy Josh. Vape on, vapors.